Hello, I'm Charlie from Nature's Outlet, and I want to talk a little bit about fish oil today. This is a project that we've been working on for a couple of years now, and with me I have Andrew Schindler, who is a industry guru. He is our primary helper to make our private label products, I would say, and I'm kind of excited about this. We've been working on it for a long time. We've got a brand new fish oil, and I wanted to talk about it today.
Yeah, well, thanks, Charlie. Yeah, thanks for having me. I know we've been working on this for a couple of years. We saw somewhat of a trend in the industry, and kind of around COVID, a lot of people really switched focus into what they thought were the right products for immunity. And consumers can't take everything. And I, like many consumers, when COVID happened, said, I'm going to focus on my D, my C, my zinc, my NAC, quercetin, melatonin, all these different supplements that were really trending around COVID. So like many people, I took my fish oil and I pushed it to the back of the cabinet.
Right.
And I later found out that was probably not the best decision.
No, so at Nature's Outlet, we're kind of obsessed with omega-3s. And the main reason for that is it's probably the single greatest nutrient deficiency amongst our population, and they're called essential fatty acids because your body cannot make them. If you don't get them from your diet or from an external source, you're doing without, and your body cannot function optimally if you have a deficiency of omega-3s.
Yeah, and in my learning, I totally agree, because as I've learned over the past several years of really digging into what's really happening in current research with omega-3s, something really powerful emerged. And we learned that there's a marker for how much omega-3s are in the blood, and it's called the omega-3 index.
They've developed a way to test for it, right?
Yeah, and so doctors don't typically order it, but there's a company called OmegaQuant. So one of the top, often considered to be the number one researcher in omega-3s globally. His name is Bill Harris. And he started OmegaQuant, and he has a simple test for determining the omega-3 index. And over the past couple of years, some super powerful research has come in to really validate that omega-3s are, as you said, essential and are some of the most powerful solutions for the health concerns that almost all of us should be cognizant of. And so this VITAL trial that was just completed was 25,000 people in the trial, so considered statistically significant. And the people that had a high omega-3 index, so the average for Americans is a little lower than 0.4. If you have an omega-3 index around 8, there's like a 28% reduction in heart attack.
That's profound.
And there's virtually no pharmaceutical can deliver that kind of therapeutic benefit. So what I realized is in my haste to get too narrow focused on immunity, I had taken really one of the most powerful and essential supplements and kind of forgotten about it. And the other thing I learned, strangely enough, the people that had high omega-3 index tended to do much better if they got COVID. So omega-3 index was also associated with better
maybe it's an oversimplification, but if you have high levels of omega-3s in your body, you are just, compared to somebody with a low level, you're all around healthier.
Absolutely.
I think that's really the best way to look at it. We consider omega-3 to be a foundational nutrient. There's maybe 3 or 4 things that you could consider in your supplement program to take every day. And at Nature's Outlet, we have long thought that absolutely an omega-3 is something that has to be part of your protocol.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's when I don't let myself be out of omega-3s for longer than a day. I when I run out, I have this slight panic, and
it's a priority. Right,
it's a priority for me. And part of the learning over the course of years is, and maybe some of your customers and listeners aren't aware of this, but there's really 2 major types of fish oil out in the marketplace. So there's what's called the ethyl ester form. About 95% of what's on the shelf in any store is going to be this ethyl ester form. Very good fish oil. It delivers tremendous healing benefits. It's excellent. Little less expensive. But there's this other form, and it's called the natural triglyceride form, almost identical to the type of oil that's found if you were eating salmon.
If you were actually eating fish.
If you were actually eating fish.
So it's closer to nature, we should say.
Much closer to nature.
Okay.
And it turns out that it's about 50 to 70% more active per milligram
Really?
than the ethyl ester group. So for instance,
I had been told it was better. I had no idea that it was
it's
that much of a difference.
52 to 70% is the
Wow,
range.
okay.
And so that means if you take 1,000 milligrams of Nature's Outlet Ultra Omega, you're getting the equivalent of 1,500 to 1,700 milligrams of omega-3s in typical fish oil. How a consumer can know is if the product does not specifically say natural triglyceride form, assume
It's ethyl ester.
it's ethyl ester. Yeah, so.
Right. Okay. Well, that's an important distinction. So basically, this new fish oil we have is, for lack of a better way of saying it, the optimal source.
It's the most potent form of fish oil you can take,
Right.
and in the most convenient dosage form. Because
Right.
I take a lot of supplements, like many of us do, and I would often have to take 4, 6, 8 of conventional fish oil. Now I'm in a position to take 2 a day, and
Right.
that's a good 2,000 milligrams of omega-3s, not fish oil, because that gets very confusing because a lot of products will give you milligrams of fish oil, but that doesn't give you the number of milligrams
Right.
of what you really are looking for,
Which is omega-3.
Omega-3.
And so omega-3, those, when you see them on the label, you're talking about, you'll see these letters, and it's all, it gets into chemistry, but you're looking for EPA and DHA. Those are probably the two most clinically relevant fatty acids.
That's
out
really
there.
that's what when you're looking for dosage, look for the EPA DHA. The fish oil milligrams are not particularly relevant.
Yeah. So folks, these drugstore fish oils, I mean, most of those, you're maybe at best getting 30% of the right kind of fatty acids. You'll even see labels that say fish oil and they don't even disclose
specify.
because they're just, I don't know what they're doing, putting juice, fish in a blender and juicing them and not even telling you what's what.
Yeah, there's really no transparency on supplier. Of course, your Ultra Omega is coming from a premium European supplier with standards of quality that exceed U.S. standards, and it's the milligrams are critical because to get to that 8% omega-3 index, and that's where we see tremendous benefits. You need at least 2,000 milligrams.
Right. Well, you're touching on something that's pretty important there. A pet peeve of mine or a challenge, I should say, that we face in the store is encouraging customers to use enough omega-3 daily. We're very oriented towards one pill a day.
Yep.
And I get it. One pill that would be great. But really, if you look at all the clinical research that's showing the benefit, you're looking at a minimum of 2,000 a day and upwards of 5,000 in a lot of these clinical studies.
Yep.
So, if we can only accomplish one thing today, it would be to encourage people to A, buy a high quality fish oil, and B, take enough of it. So
Absolutely.
I think that's got to be something that we probably need to do a better job at Nature's Outlet, because but the cool thing is I really think that and I've seen this. The customers, a lot of times people will be achy in the winter with their joints and stuff. Yeah. I will encourage them to double their fish oil intake, and 30 days later they'll come back and be like, "Wow, I feel so much better."
Oh, absolutely.
So try it for yourself. Do it for a month. You don't have to do it forever. Obviously, if you don't see a difference at all after you've done it for a month or two, maybe it's not that important. But the science is showing the high omega index. Basically showing high levels in our body. All things equal, we're just healthier.
Yeah.
So that's important to think about.
And I'd like to mention there's a specific message for smokers. So out of these recent trials, they found something really quite powerful. So we all know that cigarette smoking is really hard on the body. On average, smokers have about 5 fewer years of healthy life. So in short, smokers die 5 years earlier than average.
All things equal, right? Okay.
Except in the study where people had the high omega-3 index.
Really?
And the smokers who had a high omega-3 index, closer to that 8%, it almost completely neutralized that shorter lifespan of smoking. Obviously, they would have been healthier if they didn't smoke, and we encourage.
Yeah, we're not. This isn't like a recipe for going to take up smoking or justifying it.
But we all know that smoking is a very difficult habit to stop, and
sure,
people need support to quit. And sometimes you do the best you can until you're ready to quit and mitigate harm. And fish oil is one of those ways to mitigate harm until you have all the internal resources that you can sort of marshal to quit smoking. Another important thing to know about omega-3s, and for men and women, but particularly for women, they're finding that omega-3s help retain muscle mass.
Oh, that's big.
So, and we know that there's osteopenia, where there's bone loss with age. There's also sarcopenia, which is muscle loss with age. And it looks like omega-3s help offset some of that muscle decline. And particularly for athletes, it helps with recovery. So there's a multitude of reasons to really prioritize omega-3s.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Sure.
So I was at a conference in Chicago, and it was some of the top naturopaths in the world were doing, they were doing a panel lecture. And the question came up, if you could only do 3 or 4 things for your health, for healthy aging, what would it be? And the funny part was we had just spent 2.5 days talking about all of these different herbs and antioxidants and nutrition and all these different things. And the number one thing, and they were unanimous in their agreement, was the number one thing that we can do for healthy aging is to preserve our muscle mass. It's the number one way to fight aging.
Yeah.
So, and that's, that was something that they offered. They didn't hesitate, and it had nothing to do with, well, it wasn't directly associated with any particular nutrient, take this nutrient or take, now they had some of those things later in the conversation, but that was like the first thing out of the gate, which kind of took me by surprise.
Yeah, so there's people who are my go-tos for education. So Rhonda Patrick is a good example.
Oh yeah, she's on Joe Rogan and
on
readily
Joe Rogan.
Available on the internet.
And she doesn't sell. The cool thing with Rhonda Patrick, she doesn't sell a product.
She's just a scientist.
She's just a scientist, and she's one of the people who really inspired me. And if I take all of the top nutritionists, nutritionally oriented physicians, clinical nutritionists, and you look and you overlap their supplement regimens and see what's
the common factors.
Fish oil is always on the list, and so is protein.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing now that protein and fish oil somewhat are their old school nutrients. They're not particularly. There's always something new, and sometimes people think the new thing is the important thing.
But the foundational stuff is always there.
The foundational stuff turns out to be foundational.
Right, there's a reason for that.
And if we forget them, then we don't do so, and really at the peril of our health, because as you said, muscle loss is one of the bigger predictors of frailty, declining vitality. If you want to have an active lifestyle, in your later years, you need adequate muscle mass. If you want to have stability and resistance to falling, you need muscle mass. And as it turns out, there's a new concept now. If you ask people 5 years ago what the largest organ in the body was, people would say the skin. That's kind of like a trivia question. Now the people who are really current on the research, and if you ask them what's the largest organ in the body, they would say your musculature.
Right.
And so the musculature is sending signals throughout the body into the brain, affecting cognition, preserving brain from cognitive decline.
Well, these people in this panel mentioned those things, but an additional thing was they were like, your entire endocrine system is supported by your musculature.
Absolutely.
And also your immune system. So if you think about it, what's one of the common things that happens when you get the flu? What's
muscle aches? Sure.
Muscle aches.
Yeah.
That's your body's literally pulling stuff out of your musculature to help fight off what's going on.
That's so. Rhonda Patrick brought that up, and so I was on the treadmill, and I was listening to Rhonda Patrick lecture about the role of muscle mass and exercise for brain health. And over 60, preserving brain health is super important.
You still have a pretty good brain.
I hope. When you're 60, though, if you lose your keys, you don't just lose your keys. The losing of the keys, you just wonder, has it started? You're wondering, like, is this the beginning?
Right.
So I do a lot to preserve. We're working on preserving fish oil.
Well, the good news would be that as you get older, you may lose your keys, but you may also forget that you even have a car.
I haven't had that happen
and that
yet.
solves itself.
That's true. Yes, forgetting that you've forgotten is a good place.
Yeah, right.
A good place to be.
It offsets, right? That's nature's way of offsetting the problem.
Yeah. So, listening to the Rhonda Patrick lecture on exercise, muscle mass, and brain health was really inspiring. So my 20-minute on the treadmill became 50 minutes.
Right, because you were motivated.
Yeah. So I take about 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass a day, and it used to be that people talk about taking protein only if you went to the gym.
Right.
It was sort of like understood that if you were working out heavy, you needed extra protein. But now we know that even in the absence of exercise, if you increase your protein intake, you will preserve more muscle mass, and you'll avoid that 4 to 10% loss of muscle mass per year over 50. It's one of those foundational supplements along with.
Okay. And so circling back to omega-3,
Sure.
What you're saying, just to reiterate what you just said earlier, increasing omega-3 intake or having an optimal level of omega-3 intake basically protects your muscle mass as you age.
So brain protection, muscle mass preservation, protection against vascular changes that we're all concerned about.
Right. Well, and it's also just broadly speaking an anti-inflammatory.
Anti-inflammatory, and it's anti-inflammatory in a really healthy way, because it's not as simple as inflammation is bad, we want to get rid of it. Inflammation is a healthy part of the immune system.
Well, it's how healing can happen.
It's how healing happens. So we don't want to, like prednisone, shut down inflammation. So fish oil works somewhat differently. It has what's called resolvins. It activates in a system of resolvins that help mediate inflammation, not terminate inflammation. We don't really want to do that. So it's one of the healthiest, most balanced,
so it balances inflammation. I'm going to oversimplify for a guy like me. It balances inflammation. So more of the healthy response and less of the overactive, unhealthy response.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to get back to the actual, like we're kind of talking about this new product at Nature's Outlet, and go back to, so what are we calling this product?
So this is Ultra Omega.
Ultra Omega.
Yep.
Because we've had other private label fish oils that were good. They were high quality, but this is something it's just a notch above. I mean, it's we're very, very selective at Nature's Outlet about the fish oils that we carry, and my message to customers would be that this is as good as it gets, and it's in our private label, which is kind of cool, because I'm proud of Nature's Outlet, and it's kind of cool to have another top tier offering in our own label.
Well, when you put your name on a product, you're trusting the product with your name and reputation. It's a powerful vote of confidence.
Yes.
To put a brand out there in the world, if it doesn't meet expectations, the brand is some nebulous entity somewhere out in the corporate world. But Nature's Outlet, they know where to find you.
Right. Yes.
Right.
And we are judged by the quality of our products,
absolutely.
as we should be.
Well, you've been how long in the community?
40-ish years.
Sure.
I don't want to say how
many.
And
so you're respecting.
Well past 40.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because this is a question that's come up about the product we've developed together, and that is, so this is a product that is super potent, 50 to 70% more potent per milligram than typical fish oil. It's super pure, European standard, European sourced. How can it be so affordable?
Right. Well, that was a cool thing. We haven't talked about that. Yeah. Especially now in this age of inflation, like we are working very hard at Nature's Outlet to take several efforts to keep pricing under control, so that we can keep offering value to customers, because we everybody's feeling the pinches of inflation, and so this, in the world of fish oil, kind of serves the consumer well, because we're able to offer a premium product at a lower price, and I think you're probably getting ready to explain why that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, so what I think consumers aren't so aware of, and once someone explained it to me, a sort of like light bulb went off. So if we take any of the national brands, all the name brand supplements, name brand anything, the way we're become familiar with those brands is through various marketing and advertising strategies.
Right.
Those are very expensive. So Companies do all sorts of things to grab our attention and move us towards the product and towards the cash register.
Right.
They end up spending a lot of money
Right.
to influence us. If we want to be cynical, they spend a lot of money to brainwash us,
Well,
and we pay for it.
right.
So the cost
is added on as a part of the cost of the product.
That's a cost of the product, and so in the Nature's Outlet brand, it's your reputation, your willingness to put your name on the product. That is the advertising, and so in a sense, we can pull out that whole cost and
give it to the consumer in the form of savings.
in the form of savings,
Right, which is so I like the fact that we have a product. The concern always is with fish oil is, there's a real premium on the quality. You cannot compromise on the quality. And so this has been kind of a 2-year project. We've been working on this, and what's exciting about it is we have a product that is at the pinnacle of the quality meter, and now because of the fact that it's in our own label, house brand, we can actually have a better price than almost all the major brands. So we're very, very cost competitive to the consumer.
Yeah, for a product of this quality, I haven't seen someone have a lower price at this quality.
Right.
And we want to make this product as affordable as possible because it is so critical that this product is in everybody's regimen. I drive my family crazy, just over and over again reminding them to take Ultra Omega, because they're not nerds about this stuff like we are. They aren't, they didn't grow up in the health food stores the way we did in the industry. They have to be reminded. And that's part of our role today is to really remind you that.
Well, and
critical.
often to remind people what they kind of already know.
Yes,
is useful, and I need that in my life.
I need to be reminded because being in the industry for over 40 years, I had pushed the fish oil to the back of the cabinet.
Right, and you're an expert.
I'm supposed to know this stuff. It's my profession, and so I needed to be reminded. And I was just operating the assumption that after I got back on using fish oils diligently, I kind of thought everybody had the same awakening I had, and.
Well, what's funny is we've had this conversation about fish oil. You can bet for the next week I probably will not miss my fish oil.
I drove people, literally, for about 2 months after, I started getting really focused on fish oil again. I would be out in public at a coffee shop and say, are you up to date on fish oil research? And people look at me like I was crazy, but
well,
I felt
you might be.
I might be, but I felt obligated to get that message out after the Vital trial came out.
So okay, well, anyway, so that's our rundown on the kind of the state of affairs with fish oil, why we're so geeked out about it, what we're excited about, and hopefully you guys can come into the store and check out our new fish oil.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Troy.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Yeah, see you soon.
Yep. Until next time.
Well, next time.